Hey everybody, hope you guys are doing well, hope you guys are staying safe. Welcome back to my channel for another video. It's been a kind of busy the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks for me, so I haven't been able to get to these ideas that I've had of a few videos here on the back burner. And also, all of a sudden, it's now September. It kind of feels like summer just kind of flew by at the snap of the finger, but you know, moving into fall now, school starting up kind of feels like normal in a way, but at the same time, you still can't really go outside and do anything you would normally do, but it is what it is. I'm here with you guys today and I'm really excited to bring you guys something new. If you guys are new here, my name is Juan Morales. I am a sport content creator from Toronto, Ontario, and my YouTube channel and the content here is going to be kind of surrounding my journey and my experiences so far in the video creation space and the content space in general. I want to share tips and tricks and my experiences and help people and teach people, but I also want to learn and collaborate with others. So if you're into sports content, that sounds like something you'd be interested in, make sure to hit me up with a follow, check out some of my other videos, but we're going to get straight into today's topic. So this video I've actually had planned for a long time, and I really took my time in order to plan what I'm going to talk about here today, because this concept and this topic is actually really near and dear to me, because this is kind of the thing that got me into sport video content in the first place and really, you know, endeared me to the idea of becoming a content creator. So in this video, we're going to talk about the ideas and the power behind story and how proper storytelling, how strong structured story can really take your video ideas to the next level in terms of how it engages and impacts your audience. I want to discuss the importance of being able to tell a proper story, as well as being able to pull emotions and create an impact within your audience and your viewership, because at the end, that's what people will stay for is, you know, the story and being able to relate to it. I think having strong visuals and great editing ability and strong visual effects is one thing, but if you can add a story onto most pieces of content, it just, you know, elevates it a little bit step further than anything else you may that might not have that story, that might not have that pre-constructed beginning, middle, and end style work where your audience can really watch it and be like, I can relate to this character, or I can relate to this person. So today I want to talk about the process of crafting and really being able to immerse your content with a proper story arc. I also want to talk about the importance of being able to create an impact within the emotions of your audience and really how that can just revitalize and change the way you will make your content. These thoughts and these methods are just my way of constructing a story. I don't want these to be placed on limitations on people. I want them to take them for what it is and maybe take a few points from them and apply it on your next project. However, this is all up to your creative vision and what your next project is. If you want to tell the story one particular way and you feel like that's the best way to impact your audience, then by all means do it. I just want to bring forth the message that it's really important to consider story when building out your next video project. I'm going to throw it back to a Casey Neistat video I saw a couple years ago where he explains his process within creating a vlog, and he really specifically zones into one thing, and that is that story is king. And ever since watching that, that's kind of stuck with me and something I've tried to apply to every single project I've done in terms of the creative work that I'm putting out right now. And I'm sure if you talk to anybody within content creation, despite the world that they're in, whether it's sports, fashion, vlogging, or travel, everyone can kind of agree on the basis that story can really make or break a piece of content, even if it has fantastic visuals. I think having a proper story allows your video to become easily more viewable. I think it allows you to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and as a viewer, that's instantly easier to follow rather than getting lost in a video where you don't know what's happening and you might just click on the next one because within the first 30 to 20 seconds, the creator has lost you just due to not being able to tell that proper story or craft it properly. I think the biggest thing with story is being able to create a linear path that your viewer and your audience can follow. Now, I know we all create content, but at the same time, we create content for an audience, for people to watch, and we want that to be easy to watch and easy to understand. If you create a story from a point A to a point B with a beginning, a middle, and an end, it's easy for a viewer to become invested and understand what's going on. Rather, having a video that goes from A to B to Z to X to wherever, then a viewer might get confused and won't be able to follow along. And then in that case, they might not become as engaged and they might leave your video for something else. I also think being able to build a proper story within video content increases the emotional impact on your viewer. Emotion is one of the most important things when it comes to video content, in my opinion. Whether it's using joy, frustration, anger, sadness, emotion is such a key way to keep people invested and engaged in your video. And I think in an era now where content goes from 15 to 30 to 1 minute seconds on social media, it's more important than ever to hook your audience with a story in order to keep them on your page rather than going to the next best thing on their feed. And at the same time, specifically within sports content, it's hard to relate to professional athletes or college athletes or any athlete of any kind if you don't play sports or if you don't play them on a high level. But at the same time, seeing the emotions and understanding the conflicts and the struggles or the motivations behind people, that's something everybody can relate to. And that's why within my sport content, I always try to hook my viewer with a specific emotion or feeling, because then they can relate to that motivation or that feeling of defeat or that feeling of victory, whatever it is. It's important just to focus on your audience and what can get them hooked and keep them on your content for as long as possible. Here's an example. A proven formula is to create a dope montage or mixtape in order to capture your viewers' attention on social media or TV or wherever your content is being shown. That's a proven formula. It's been done time and time again, and trust me, I love doing that as much as the next guy or girl. I don't think there's anything wrong with creating a montage that's visually stunning and is edited perfectly. I think that's great and that takes skill to do. However, I do think there are limitations on the emotional impact that that could have within your audience and the retention that it'll keep your viewer there for a longer period of time. Now, if you take said beautifully edited montage and add a story beneath it, that creates depth within the piece. And that depth is what's going to engage your viewer, engage your audience to stay there and understand the motivations, the result, everything to do with the story. It'll keep them engaged because it's visually stunning, but it has emotional depth to it. I also don't think what you're shooting or creating really matters, whether it's college athletics or amateur or high school sports or even professional sports. I think story is universally important across the board. Now, going a little more in depth, I think it's important to understand that there are a few ingredients you gotta kind of keep in mind when you're creating and crafting your perfect story. And these are things that I always try to keep in the back of my mind and try to think about when I'm creating or working on a project. Now, the first thing when it comes to building your story is creating a linear arc for your audience to follow seamlessly. You need a beginning, a middle, and an end. You need an intro, a climax, and a conclusion. It's pretty simple, and I think that's flexible, especially in sports when it's unpredictable, when multiple things can happen on a shoot day. But at the same time, I think having that basis for your story, for your video, can really change the way you go into the post-production phase or you go into the shoot day phase. Having that linear story arc ensures that your video has a proper structure to it. Once again, it just makes it easier for someone to follow your video. And if it's easy to follow and easy to understand, then most likely than not, your viewer is gonna stay watching your video. Now, if you can take that idea of going from point A to point B and seeing everything that happens in the middle, and you add emotion and context on top of that, again, the depth happens. You create depth within your story. It's not about getting from point A to point B. It's how did this person get from point A, go over the mountain in the middle, and get to the end in point B to their destination, to the final result. So when you're building this story arc, you kind of want to ask yourself questions in order to figure out two specific things. First of all, what is the story you're trying to tell? And second off, who are your characters and what are their motivations? Kicking it off, what is the story you're trying to tell? What are the stakes involved in this event or in this video you're trying to make? What's the challenge that the characters are going to face? What's the biggest thing stopping them from getting to the conclusion? Is this a championship game? Is this a playoff game? Is this someone's rookie debut? Is this someone's last game? Is someone ready to break a record? These are all some examples of questions you can ask yourself when building it, but at the same time, it depends on your situation and what you're shooting or what you're trying to create. The second thing you want to ask is, who are your characters? Who are you shooting? Who are you trying to, put in your video to be a character and to drive the story forward? I think every good story involves, one or several strong characters with motivations. Is this an individual story, or are you trying to hone into the team as a character? Is there a specific motivation for someone to do well in this game? Is this, like I said, maybe their rookie game, or is this their last game? Is there an emotional connection between someone in the stands and the player? Does the day or the game have a specific emotional importance to a specific player? These are questions you're gonna have to ask and sit down and really think about when you're creating your content from beginning, middle to end. You really wanna sit down and understand the motivations behind the people you're shooting, behind the characters you want to involve in your video. One more thing you might want to keep in mind: if the result, regardless of what you're shooting, whatever game or event you're shooting, isn't in favor of the character you're trying to tell, you can also use that content in a completely different way later down the line. I know there are several times where I've shot losses for teams I'm shooting for, and at the same time capturing the emotion within a loss, the anger and the frustration and the anguish at times. It can be a really useful tool later down the road for creating motivational content or even adding more depth and context to a future piece. So regardless of what you're shooting, keep in mind that negative emotions aren't that bad to capture for future use as well, but you have to be careful in the way you display them. Now, being able to identify these characters, being able to identify and understand their motivations will just add that depth. It will create another layer for your story to sit on and another layer for your video to be built upon with the visuals. Understanding these concepts and applying them to your work, again, will just elevate the level of impact it'll have to your audience, and it'll keep them engaged. Like I keep repeating, it's all about emotion. It's all about engaging your audience with those emotions and being able to retain them and keep them watching your content. Again, those are just some general guidelines and kind of thoughts I have to myself when I'm creating content, but I think it varies from piece to piece, and it can really change depending on who or what story you're trying to tell. At the end of the day, the way you choose to tell your story is going to result in your creative process and the final vision you have in mind. In conclusion, considering story will change the way you will create content, and it'll also change the way you connect with your audience. You also need to consider the emotions and the impact that your audience is going to feel. How do you want to make them feel? What do you want to show them? And what do you want them to take away? It's important to think about that because you also want to keep them engaged. Like I said this whole time, keeping your audience engaged is so key, and it's really the most important thing when creating an impactful story. I think the biggest thing within storytelling to consider is creating and sharing emotions with your audience to bring out that connection and to bring out the relatability between the story, the characters, and the person seeing your content. I think taking the time to invest in your storytelling skills and being able to construct a story from start to finish is just as important as being able to be a beautiful cinematographer with great shots and a great eye for visuals, or a great editor who knows how to piece a story together. If you have the ability to craft a story from the start, you will have no problem in finding the visuals and also being able to put it together at the end in post-production. Ultimately, without a story, without a really well-constructed story arc, it might be really hard to connect to your content, it might be hard to watch, it might be hard to really relate to, and at the end of the day, you want to make it as easy and relatable as possible for your audience, and you also want to make it as entertaining as possible as well. And that kind of does it for this video. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to sit down to talk about story. This is something I'm obviously really passionate about, and I'm really going to take the time in the future to make more content surrounding this. I think I'm thinking about doing an editing breakdown, as well as going through my day-to-day routine in terms of shooting a story and pre-producing a story all in general, because I think that's really effective skills to have in the sport content realm. If you've enjoyed my sports content, if you like sports content in general, be sure to subscribe. Follow me on Instagram at 77jmorales. Connect with me, reach out to me, drop some love in the comments. Let me know who your favorite storyteller is. Let me know some of your favorite pieces of storytelling and sports content. I would love to watch them. Be sure to keep it locked to the channel. Again, thank you again for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.